Hi everyone, my name is Rabbit Winry, and welcome to my Skyrim mod making tutorial series. I started this series in hopes to make super detailed tutorials on how to make different mods for Skyrim, so if there's something I don't explain too well or something you want to know, let me know down in the comments. But for today, we're going to be going over quest making basics. So this tutorial will be covering what a quest even is in the creation kit, setting up a quest, an overview of the tabs in the quest form, and finally we'll kind of talk about and prepare for the second part of this two-part series where we will discuss actually making a quest and the different quest types. So first off, what even is a quest in the creation kit? Traditionally, you might be thinking about like a character saying, go get this item for me, or go kill this enemy, and the player goes and does that. But in the creation kit, it's a lot more detailed. See, anything that really happens in in Skyrim, in the sense of dialogue or events, is a quest. This can be something like, as on the screen here, a guard telling me a piece of dialogue, or something like a random event walking into a dungeon and the walls close in behind me. So with all that said, it's time for us to go into the creation kit. So in the creation kit, I've already opened up the test file we made last time, which is the tutorial test. It's already loaded up here and everything. If you're wondering how to load up a ESP and everything in the creation kit, go check out part 1 of my of this series. But to start on this one, and to make a quest, we're going to go over to the object window under character, click on it, and it's going to open up this list, and we want the quest list. And you can see here, as we click on quest, we can see all the different quests in Skyrim. As you can see, it is a very extensive list. But for our purposes, we're going to click, right click and hit new. And this is going to open up the quest form. Just for starts, we're going to go ahead and make an ID just so it's easier for us to find the future. For this one, I'm going to do AA just so it's easier for me to find in this huge list. And then TT for test tutorial. And finally, quest example. Once we have that name together, I'm just going to hit OK. And that is mainly because whenever you start a new quest, you don't have access to all of the tabs yet that are in the quest form. But when we click again, you can see that we have all these extra tabs that we didn't have beforehand. So, what does all of this do? This is going to be really in-depth, so bear with me a lot. We're going to start on the quest data, which basically, as it sounds, has all the data for the basic information for our quest. This will be the ID, the quest name, in which case would be the name that you hear or that you see when you get when the quest starts up and you get an objective. So for example, if we go find another quest, let's use the Thieves Guild as an example. We click on that. And you can see that this quest is this quest in the game, Speaking with Silence. So that's what sort of the name stuff does. For this, we're just going to do tutorial test. If I can spell tutorial right. Oh my god, I can't spell today. Tutorial test. The next thing is priority. This is kind of about what the priority your quest has in line with everything else. So if you look at, again, we'll look at the Thieves Guild test, for example, it's 70, but if we go to something like the main quest, you can see that when we click on it, it's up at 82. So it just kind of depends on what priority your quest will be, what priority the events will have over other stuff in the quest. So if you have something like a faction main quest line, obviously its priority will be a lot higher than just generic dialogue. In fact, we might be able to find a generic dialogue. As you can see here, we have dialogue generic. If we click on that, you can see the priority is actually 0. And for another one, for example, here we have unique voices. Its priority is still 0. Next, we have Start Game Enable. Start Game Enable basically is what it sounds like. When you start the game, does your quest start? This mostly would take into effect saying, hey, if I have a quest line, I wouldn't want the second part of that quest line to just start automatically. I would untick this so then I could have it start up when I tell it to start up in a script during the first part of that quest line. But for now, we're just going to keep it as Start Game Enable. Run once basically is what it sounds like. This quest will only run once. Mainly you would untick this if you have like a radiant quest or a quest that repeats over and over again. Next one is allow repeated stages. This is, we'll go into what stages are in a moment, but basically this means can it repeat? And next are conditions. Conditions basically say what must be met for your quest to start. And so you would just right click new and click on it. And you can see there's a ton of conditions here. Really, it's just going around and looking through them and finding which ones you might use often. Ones that I use quite a bit are ones that check for player gender, player race, if a quest has been completed, and what type of location the player is in. So let's say we have a quest here that only would start if the player, it's a Thalmor specific quest, and we wanted that only a high elf player could do. So for that, we would do get is race. And you have this right here, which basically would be the what the condition variables, I guess, are. I don't know the technical term at the moment, but and you can see once we open it up, we get a list, a drop down of all the different races in game. For us, we're gonna look up high elf race, click OK, and then it would be run on, and then basically it's saying what item or what object are we looking for to be the high elf race. For this it says subject, but what we would want is the player. And the equal means it must be equal to 1, meaning it must be true. Now, if we put this to 0, that means this quest would only start if the player is not a high elf. But for our purposes, it would be 1. You press OK. Next thing is the type of quest. This mostly deals with the UI art. So if you played Skyrim, you would have seen that different quest lines have different artwork with their title names. So as you can see, there are the different types of questline UI art as seen here. And sort of since this is a, we'll still go with the sort of Thalmor vibe thing, we're going to say it is a Civil War type of quest. So it would have the Civil War UI art when we look at the title in the journal. We won't worry about these other things for now. The only one that I think is kind of nice to just know is once you start putting dialogue into your quest, you'll see this says lines of dialogue, and this is just a good little way for you to keep track of how many lines of dialogue are in your quest. Lastly is the object window filter. As you can see over here in the quest, if we instead drop down the quest icon, you'll see we have all these different types of categories. Well, what if we want to make our own? So I am going to write down tutorial and then do a little tilt thing like that. I don't know what they're called right now. So then that means if we press OK, we save, and we leave the creation kit and go back in, it should be there under these categories. So now that we've loaded it back into the creation kit, as you can see down here, I have the tutorial tab, and there is my quest. We'll double click. And going back in, we'll move on to the next tab, which is Quest Stages. Quest Stages pretty much is the order of events of things happening. So like, let's say I want it that the player is asked to go get an item. Well, we would need a starting stage, which for our purposes, we're going to have it be 0. And then we want it that the player during this stage can go walk up and talk to a Thalmor soldier. At the end of that discussion, the player is going to get an objective to go kill a Talos worshiper. So we'll right click, click new, and we're going to put in 10. Now 10 would be where we get the objective to go kill this Talos worshiper. And then say we go kill the guy, and we want to now say, okay, go back and talk to that Thalmor soldier. We'd make another stage, 20, which would be where we have killed the man and we need to now go talk back to the Thalmor soldier. And then finally 30, which would be we have talked to the Thalmor soldier and gotten our reward, and this is where the quest would end. So quest stages can be very detailed depending on what your quest is, which we will get into that much more in the second part because I will teach you how to do like very basic quest, and then we'll put it all together to make an extra long quest, in which case our stages are going to get very detailed then. So that is something for another day. For now, we have our stage 0. And just to make sure, we're going to do a startup stage. Remember when I said the start game enabled? Or when we say we want the next quest to, when we would, the script we would use to set this quest up, we would use startup stage to say, hey, this is the stage that this quest starts at. A little good practice I've heard about is to, instead of having 0 be your first stage, you can instead do 5. So say if something comes up randomly where you're like, oh man, I need something to happen before this quest, before this quest becomes a big deal, you could put it in 2, 3, such like that. A big component is these log entries. So we right click new, and log entries basically is, you know how in Skyrim, when you look at your journal, when it's not a miscellaneous quest, but more of like a quest line or a bigger side quest, you get a little journal entry saying what the player is the Dragonborn is recapping what this quest is about. We would put that here, so I would say, this is a tutorial I am meant to follow. This would be found in the journal section of the main menu. So if we were to boot up the game and this quest started for us, we would see that we would see this text in the journal section of the main menu. Now, this won't start up completely on its own, but we will get more into that in the next part. For now, just know that this is where those journal entries live. The next thing is over here is your scripting. We're not going to worry about this up here. For now, we're just going to worry about this box. Pretty much any scripting you have for a quest will be found here. There's an extra sort of level to this under scripts tabs. However, for now, we're just going to focus on this. We really wouldn't need to worry about this until probably the far future, or when we discuss another section about quests. To make basic quests, this right here for the quest scripting will be all you'll need. Next, we have the conditions, which is kind of like the conditions we saw on the last side, the last page. It would just be that, hey, this stage will not, if you have this stage to be set, then it would only run if you have conditions that are met. The next part is the complete and fail quest, which, we would put that at the end of our quest. We would need to do a new log entry. You need to do that anytime you want to edit anything down here, in which case we'd say complete quest. Now, let's say we are actually given a choice. Let's say we get to the Talos worshiper and we can talk with him, and he asks us to let him go. Well, we say, okay, you can leave and everything. So we let him go. We'd make that set to another stage, and our objective that was meant to be kill the Talos worshiper, we would instead set that to fail quest. You'll see that also when we did this, there'd be a next quest. So this is mostly used in quest lines. So if you have, so let's say we have a secondary quest where if we let the Talos worshiper go, we are now going to have the Thalmor soldier from before hunting us. So we would do next quest, which would bring a drop down, and we would find the next quest we make where that Thalmor soldier goes and hunts us, we would make that the next quest. For now, we'll leave this blank. The next tab is quest objectives. This is where you get your objectives. So instead of it being this long entry, you also get the shorter version that says, go kill the Talos worshiper. I keep wanting to say Nord, that's not right. You'd right click new, and you see that there is a index here. Index, it really can be any number, but there's really no reason not to make it the same number as your quest stage. So I think I had it where 20 was where we go attack the the Talos worshiper, and we would go ahead and make our index 20. So then in our display text, this would be the objective we as the player see, which is go kill the Talos worshiper. So when we go to when we hit stage 20, we would need to put in a script. We won't worry about that now, but this is just an explanation of what these do. Next would be target reference. This is where we would put pretty much the target, our map marker, what it would point to and such. And in this case, it would be the Talos worshiper actor. And as you can see below, we have conditions and everything. Next is quest aliases. Quest aliases are a big thing of worms. We're going to worry about it mostly next time. However, for now, just know any piece your quest may have, like anything your quest may need to function, an actor, a chest, a weapon, a location, all of that will be in quest aliases. Think of it like we are building a puzzle here, and to make a puzzle, you need puzzle pieces. Quest aliases are the puzzle pieces. Next, we have dialogue views. This is going to include any player and actor dialogue. Now, this can get very confusing as well. Like I said, we'll handle that more in the next part. There's various ways to do it. So I will explain all that later because it can be a lot. This player dialogue tab is sort of like the dialogue views. So remember when I said that there are various ways to do player dialogue? The player dialogue tab here kind of does the same. It has the same function, it's just a different way to visualize it. Where dialogue view gives you more of a graph chart to kind of see how the conversation flows. Instead of player dialogue, it gives you a list. So this would really depend on more personally how you would like to see the player dialogue scenes with other NPCs visualized, and do you like a chart or do you like a list better? So this would be a very personal one, and we'll go over it more in the next part. Hi there. So I made a little bit of an oopsie. I was about to go into this favored dialogue tab, and I thought I knew what it was. I'm going to be completely honest, I am not sure what this is. But for now, we're just going to ignore it, and I'm going to use the audio I used for when I was explaining this for the actual correct tab, which is the favors tab. Next, we have scenes, which would basically be a conversation between two different NPCs or creatures or whatnot. Or if you want a NPC to go up to like a chest or something specific and say something and, go and do something or such like that. We won't worry about this too much right now. I do hope to make a video in the future about making a scene, so we'll worry about that then. Next is combat. Just like the favor dialogue, you'll have the combat here. And this would be like all combat dialogue. There's different categories for the combat dialogue. Like I said before, we'll kind of deal with it in the future. But, for now, that's what we got. Next, we have favor dialogue, which basically, as it sounds, is when you ask a character to do a favor and how they respond to it. I highly recommend looking up Joseph Russell's tutorial on making a follower series, as he goes into like the favor dialogue and some of the other dialogue that we'll go into. He goes into making quests for followers and such. I highly recommend it, but you can kind of see how these dialogue branches and tabs and everything work there. Next, we have detection, which detection kind of like it's the same format as the combat tab, but instead the categories would be more like, oh, an enemy just saw you and starts attacking and says, get over here, or something like that, and goes off to attack you, or, loses sight of you during a combat and go like, where'd they go? That would be detection. Next is services, which is more like repair and training and such. And finally, miscellaneous, which would be like hellos, goodbye, idle, dialogue, and all that. And finally, we have the script tab. And the script tab is pretty much if we have any, like, scripts not actually in the quest that we would want to use, we would put them here. We're not going to worry about it right now. I would recommend, again, looking at Joseph Russell's follower tutorial, where he kind of goes into this little tab here and using this tab to put together a script, a follower script. So I would recommend that. And with that, that is all of the kind of basics for the quest form. If you do have any questions, let me know, but do understand that next time I'm going to have a part 2 of this series where we are going to make a very basic quest. We're going to go over different quest types, such as fetch quest, going to kill an enemy, or reading a note and talking to an NPC, while also going over how to set up a randomized location system, usually used in Radiant quests. Until then, happy modding.